Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with veteran jazz bassist Dave Sharp. We caught up with him to talk about his new 2025 CD called Catalyst, the music of Gregg Hill, and a life that's been very well done in the world of music. His quartet is composed of an exceptional group of artists, including himself on bass, and a wonderful ensemble that marks a decade of their work together as one of the most intriguing world music groups on the scene today. We cover his life in music, the beginnings of this band, and so much more. Enjoy this interview. It's great to meet you. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed the album. I played it on the show, so I'm looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah, thanks for playing the record, man. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So Gregg Hill is just as prolific as ever. So before we get into covering his music, I want to know, first and foremost, 5 years ago, this pandemic was raging. So much was going on. How did you get through the pandemic of 2020, and how has it radiated into either this project or what you're doing today?
Well, when the pandemic happened, Mike List, the percussionist in the band, and myself, we started doing some online collaborations, some actually live online collaborations where we would both sign on to a platform and we would compose, improvise, arrange tunes. And that actually was a great big boost in the creativity workflow. Because before we would always rehearse in person or go to a gig, and we were never really collaborating with music online using the digital technology. So after we did that, that kind of pushed it in a new direction where we were able to continue to be creative in a different way, in a different format.
So talk to me a little bit about how this album, the music of Gregg Hill, how it came up with Catalyst. How did the idea come about? How good does it feel to cover this music? Kind of talk to me a little bit about working with the quartet and Elden and how it worked.
Yeah, well, we've been working with Elden in the quartet. He's been a guest artist with us, or he's just simply served as a sub in the quartet for the entire time we've been a group. This is our 10-year anniversary right about now. Actually, June of 2025 was our 10-year anniversary. So Elden has played with the group and is familiar with all of our particular styles of playing. He's familiar with our arrangements. He's familiar with our influences. So when Gregg was interested in doing a collab with the quartet, Elden was the perfect person because he'd been working with Gregg on his creative projects for a while. He had been working on us with our creative projects for a while. So he was able to arrange Gregg's compositions to fit the dynamic of the group really in a way nobody else could have done. He was really uniquely positioned there. And, you know, Elden is such a creative player and creative musician anyway that it made it very easy for the quartet and Elden and Gregg to all collaborate on this project.
So talk to me a little bit about how this jazz journey began for you. Take me to your beginnings. Talk to me a little bit about how not only music, but more specifically jazz became your world.
Well, it all started when I bought a LP entitled Thelonious in Action, live at the Five Spot. It's a record that Thelonious Monk recorded live in 1958 at the Five Spot Club in New York City with Johnny Griffin. And once I heard that, there was no going back. That remains, that's one of the very first records I heard that blew my mind, and it remains one of my absolute favorite records to this day. So from there, that started me on a study of jazz and improvised music. And I moved out to California and started playing out in the San Francisco Bay Area, started meeting a lot of musicians out there, and got tapped into the Indian music scene there, where musicians like Ali Akbar Khan, Zakir Hussain, um, Salamat Ali Khan, where there were all these musicians from India, from Pakistan, doing Indian classical music. And so I started to study that when I was out in California, and really kind of saw the parallels between the improvisation in jazz and the improvisation in Indian music, and also the improvisation in music from all over the world, whether it's like Morocco or Spain or Senegal or you name it, Brazil. There's very strong traditions of improvisation all over the world, which is what the Worlds Quartet is named for. Dave Sharp Worlds Quartet means we are looking at different worlds of improvisation and different modes of exploring, music and rhythmic variation.
So, what was the first live show that you saw that blew you away that made you think, I want to do that one day?
Um, it was Ali Akbar Khan at the Palace of Fine Arts in San Francisco.
What was so emblematic about the show?
Well, there was like a very meditative quality to it, where you know there was a very peaceful, meditative beginning, and then it went into a lot of dynamic interplay where Ali Akbar Khan would explore the different ragas. He would explore the different rhythms, the different tals in Indian music, the 16 beat cycle, the 12, teen tal or ek tal, the 16 beat cycle, 12 beat cycle, which I had been studying. So really, they were doing a lot with rhythmic variation and also a lot with melodic variation. And, that's kind of, that's the essence of, what we call jazz, melodic variation, rhythmic variation. That's kind of where just about most music traditions with, aside from like pop music, that's where they land. They have all those elements.
So, talk to me a little bit about the Worlds Quartet. How did it come together? How did it come together, and how does it work so well?
It came together with myself and Igor Houwat, the oud player, and Mike Liss, the percussionist. We played a few gigs as a trio because I had invited Igor. Igor and I were both playing in each other's groups. He had an Arabic fusion group, and I had like a world music fusion group. I would invite him as a guest occasionally. He would invite me as a guest occasionally to play some of the Arabic tunes that his group was playing. And so we decided just to play a gig as a trio for fun at a local tavern in Ann Arbor called the Old Town. And we did that once, and went well. We decided to do it again. And then at the time, I was playing with Hendrik Karapetyan, our violinist, in a klezmer group. We had formed a klezmer group. And I said, hey, I had seen Hendrik at rehearsal that day. I was like, hey, man, stop by the Old Town and sit in on a few tunes. Like we got this trio going. And he was like, all right. He came down, he played, and that particular sound of the violin, the oud, Mike's world percussion, and my bass kind of struck a really, we got a really full sound, and we also had an immediate rapport among the musicians where we could really interact with each other, really improvise together, improvise collectively, and really kind of strip down the sound and have like a very focused quartet sound.
So let me ask you this. What's the best part of being a professional musician? What gets you up every day? What gets you to love this music and to evolve through it?
Well, what keeps me going is, the ability to really experiment and explore, do a lot of different things with the same instrument. I play electric bass and I play upright bass. I play synthesizer. I play some drums. I play some percussion. I'm mainly a bassist, composer, and band leader. That's my main focus. But what keeps me going is to be able to explore all of these different textures and different ideas and different feelings of this music. Like I was talking about music being meditative. Also, I think music can be energetic. I think it can be uplifting. I think it can, make you feel energized. It can make you feel relaxed. It can make you um, feel like you want to start thinking about outer space, or you want to start thinking about water, or the desert, or or the sky, or the sea. Um, Music can just take you so many different places. And people come up to me after the shows. They're like, "Man, I was just envisioning myself in the desert when you guys were playing." Or some of your music sounds like celestial, like it's like music of the spheres or the planets, or so a lot of people get a lot of different things out of the music that we do. Um, like it takes them to different places depending on the person. So being able to do that is really what keeps me going, is to be able to create different moods, different textures, different sounds for a wide variety of people.
So at the end of the day, why do you love this music that we call jazz?
Oh, because of the endless possibilities. It's because if you have your own approach, there are no wrong answers. There are so many different ways to approach it, depending on your instrumentation, depending on your harmonic approach, depending on where you're from, depending on what you're influenced by, depending on what you've listened to for all your life or part of your life. You can really incorporate a lot of traditions into your sound. I mean, one thing I point to is the collaborations between, Pharoah Sanders did a record with some Moroccan musicians that's called Mahmoud Ghania is his name, um, where he went to Morocco and played tenor saxophone with these Moroccan cats, and the fusion is incredible. John Coltrane studied Indian music for a few years and incorporated some modal explorations into his music. Um, John Handy did the same thing. Fareed Haq does the same thing. Um, there's a lot of different musicians who have looked to these different traditions and incorporated them into their musical concept. And I think it's just like a normal part of being a musician. You start exploring different sounds and start discovering different things and are able to incorporate those things.
So let me ask you this. If you could get into a time machine right now and go back in the history of jazz and see one show live, where would you go?
I would go to a point in the early 60s and see the Charles Mingus, um, either the octet uh, or one of the Mingus big bands in the early 60s. I would totally do that.
So, the one thing about your music and what you do is that, you've been able to go around the world. You've been able to see a lot of different cultures and a lot of different places. What has that meant for you as a musician? How has that developed you, not only as a musician, but as a human and as a creative in your evolution as a musician?
Well, I mean, it's kind of shown me that there's a commonality with musicians around the world. Everybody, all the musicians I've come into contact around the world, whether it's been here in the United States or whether it's been in Senegal or Kenya or Switzerland or Japan or, anywhere around the world, everybody's basically doing the same thing. They're trying to launch their musical vision in any way they can. They're looking for that creative expression. They're looking for the ability to share their concepts with people, to perform them where people can hear it, where people can, get into their musical concept and gain some appreciation of it. Once a lot of times, music is separated in genre, like blues, jazz, rock, pop, R&B, all these things, which is, somewhat the result of, the industry and the commercial nature of music, where everybody's given a category. But really, all the musicians that I've come across are all really doing the same thing. They're creating music for expression, and they're incorporating all of their influences into their concept.
So at the end of the day, what are you hoping the listener gets from your interpretation of the music of Gregg Hill on the album Catalyst?
I hope they're getting a musical experience with a variety of sound and a variety of moods and a variety of textures. Like, I'm hoping they're hearing and I'm hoping they're hearing a good variety of all of those things, and that it's transporting them to a good place, either whether it's a good mood or a good feeling or a good vision, or that it's sort of taking them to a place that they normally wouldn't go, and they say, "Wow, this is a very interesting set of sounds I'm hearing. There's a lot of variety. It's making me feel peaceful. It's making me feel edgy. It's making me feel excited or energetic. It's making me feel like I'm in a city street in Europe. It's making me feel like I'm on a beach in Brazil. It's making me feel like I'm somewhere other than where I'm at." It's transporting them in some kind of creative way.
So at the end of the day, Dave, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, fans, everyone you play with on the bandstand, but ultimately you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm a musical explorer, really. I think my experience with different musicians over time, my experience with different cultures over time, has sort of, put me in a position where I'm able to lead a band and arrange music for a band and create that experience I was talking about, where people walk away and they get, people have this musical experience that transports them somewhere. Wherever that happens to be, it's fine, but it just takes them somewhere. And I think over time I've developed that. It didn't come out of nowhere. I'd say it took about 10 years after a series of many, many collaborations, playing different styles of music, being called on different gigs, being forced to, not being forced, but being in a position where I had to learn some Indian music. I had to learn some African music. I had to learn some classical music. I had to learn some Brazilian grooves. I had to learn some Eastern European Balkan grooves. I had to play in odd time signatures. I had to leave space for the different stringed instruments or the different pitches that the percussionist has in his percussion rig, whether it's, a tabla or a frame drum from the Middle East or a darbuka or anything like that. I had to learn from listening and learning from collaborating.
So, Dave, if anyone wants to pick up a copy of Catalyst, any of your previous work, catch you live, any of the good business in your world, where do they go?
They would go to davesharp.com or davesharpworldsquartet.com, and you can order that online.
Wonderful. Dave, this has been great, man. Thank you so much. Thank you for your story. Thank you for talking about the album. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you. Hey, I appreciate you, and great to talk with you, Joe.
Thanks for listening and tuning into another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players and minds in LA, New York City, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to Dave for his time, energy, and cool. If you want to hear more Neon Jazz interviews, you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to us at YouTube, and for everything Neon Jazz, go to theneonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.